Welcome to Withdraw Consent. I'm Victor. This is Jack. This is our 7th video on the Holocaust, our 3rd this week. And we're going to be talking about the camp Sobibor.
Yes.
And I hear rumors that there's a great Russian award-winning movie that we're going to be talking about. I'm sure it's supremely accurate and not absurd at all. I'm excited to hear about that. What do you got?
Yeah, it's very good.
Oh, good.
Okay, I got to tell you this story. I was talking to Victor, and I'm like, hey, you know what we should do? We should make some type of episode that's just like a satire of the Holocaust, like how stupid it is.
Okay.
And what was your response?
I feel like all the information that we know is like it's already satire and already just ridiculous.
It's all satire. It's insane. Like if you watch this movie, it's a comedy. It's literally a comedy. It's a dark comedy, but it's a comedy. Like imagine I was making an anti-communist movie and I'm like, okay, well, we know no Russians can read. They're all morons, right? They all date their sisters, and let's make a movie like that.
Okay.
And then anybody who's ever like read a book written by a Russian or, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Met a Russian, they're like, this is insane. That's what we got here.
Okay, cool.
You know? And so basically, I want to talk a little bit about the history of the camp, and then I want to make fun of this movie.
Okay.
And so before we had that conversation, you've seen my notes. I had went down and literally I was writing down about scenes. And I'm like, I'm the fool in that point because I'm treating your satire like it's real, and you're trolling me. So I'm just going to talk about some of the major things. Do you want to talk about details of the camp or just a couple things about the movie that are silly first? How do you want to do it?
I'm thinking about the movie, so that's kind of what I want to hear. I want to hear the ridiculous stuff.
Okay, so this movie's absolutely ridiculous.
Okay.
So there's characters in it that let me tell you about some of the German characters because I had talked about how they just so the commander of the camp is this guy who was previously married to a Jewess and now he's not for some reason, and he just loves Jewish women. So he'll just be standing there with other Nazis and he's like, he's the perfect beautiful Jewess, and they're all looking at him like, okay. So imagine you're Alex Jones. This guy's Alex Jones.
Okay.
Or something like that. And you just literally love Jewish people more than your own people. That's cool. Like whatever, do your thing.
Sure.
Right? But you're not going to make it as a Nazi camp commander.
Correct.
You say those things out loud. It's nonsense. We got this other guy, and he drinks on the job. Now, if you knew the Nazis, they were incredibly strict.
Yes.
Incredibly strict. This guy's just drinking on the job, and he's like overseeing the area where they take all the jewelry and then they separate into different things, and then they have Jewish people who are camp prisoners who are jewelers.
Okay.
And they're like checking to see if things are authentic and then put them in piles and send off to different places. And he's got this one Jewish guy that he's really got a thing for, you know, and then he'll just go tell him like, you're not working hard enough. Come on, you know, and then he'll go bend the dude over, whip out the belt and start spanking him. And he'll spank him. And then the Jew has to yell, Ein, zwei, drei, right? But they'll go through this and you're just watching this. You're like, and then he's like, Sieben. And then the German's like, not loud enough. Start over, you know? Ein, zwei. So, but you'll have whole scenes where there's some conspirators on either side of an open doorway.
Okay.
And the doorway's looking down into the place right there. And they're like on either side and they're whispering like, what should we do about the secret plan? And in the background you hear, Act! Nine! You know what I mean? And they're just talking and there's just the background to it.
Yeah.
It's really realistic, right?
That seems like how it would work.
I mean, the military, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
If they had a military like this, they couldn't have done anything.
Right.
Absolutely worthless. Okay. So they basically, when you roll up to this camp, beautiful trains. When you roll up in the beautiful train, basically what happens is there's a group of camp prisoners who are Jewish, and they're playing a whole violin string thing going on here. Sad.
Alex setting the mood for the arrival.
So sad. And on the loudspeaker, you hear the German, and he's like, welcome to Sobibor, your new home, right? Little conflicting messages there with the you're about to die violins. They take them all in, and they ask them if they have any skills, right? So there's this woman that everybody pretends is attractive in the show, and she's upper class, obviously, so she has no skills. And a prisoner comes and whispers to her, tell me you have skills. And she's like, why? So you don't die, you know? So she doesn't tell him she has skills because she doesn't have any skills anyways. They take the people with skills off and they take all the other people, women first, strip them down. They all run naked down a hall, you know? They go into this gas chamber, right? Now, when we get to talking about the camp, we're going to talk about how all claims are that carbon monoxide killed them. In this movie, it's Zyklon B being pumped through the shower heads.
Oh, good.
You know? Of course, the camp commander is watching into the little window. Because naked Jewish woman, number one.
Oh, true.
And number two, he gets to see them all writhe around. And then the other Nazis are joking about whether he can get it up or not, or if this does it for him. It's absurd. Every part of this is just absolutely absurd. At one point, somebody does something they don't like, so then they count the heads, and then when it gets to 10, they just shoot them. They shoot every 10th person.
Okay.
And the part about the Jews and them wanting to escape isn't that ridiculous. It's an escape movie.
Oh, okay.
They're trying. Well, I'll tell you the history of that, how it actually happened, and none of that part's ridiculous.
Okay.
It's very well done. It's just that everything about the Germans is like. Let me tell you another scene. At the end, they have all the Jews in the camp on their knees, just in case they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them.
Okay.
Just in case.
Yeah.
And they're all lined up, and then they got to watch, and then all the Germans are drinking. They're all on duty, and they're just plastered, and there's bottles everywhere because this is allowed.
Yeah, of
right?
course.
There's no discipline in German military. And they're all drunk as all get out. Well, they're on these like wagon-like things, and for their horse, they have Jews. So like they'll get a Jew, and they're racing each other, and they've got Jews, and they'll be whipping them. But the problem is your Jew gets tired.
Sure.
So then he shoots him, and he says, my horse, he's dead. I need another horse, right? Uh-huh. And so like another guy who's one of the main characters is like, I'll be your horse. And they're like, no, what are you doing? What are you doing? He's like, I'm over this. I'm over this. Okay. So then he goes and gets whipped and goes. It's just the absurdity is award-winning.
I feel like this could have been written by people on Reddit as well. Like this is the type of things that they would say. Just like this is what they believe. This type of things.
Yeah. It's wild. It's interesting. Anyways, there's a lot more to it than that. You could watch it if you want. It's available on Prime. Well, we just flipped months, so it's early February and we're filming this, and it was available in January. I can't promise. Okay. But it was available if you want to watch it. Like I said, it's a dark comedy.
That's just called Operation Sobibor?
It's just called Sobibor.
Oh, okay.
And so, and I seen it come up on my screen, and I'm like, if that camp is on the USHMM list of total deaths for the Holocaust, I'll watch your film. Okay. And it was, and I'm like, gotta watch it. So I watched it once, and I'm like, I gotta make a video about this and watch it again. Right? So basically, this camp operated it was part of Operation Reinhardt, which we covered yesterday. Okay. It operated from May 1942 to October 1943.
So almost the full length of
Almost the full length. It was under construction in March when Operation Reinhardt started. Started filling in May, and then October, and then, so 1 month before the end. And they say it closed because of the escape, which happened in the movie, and we'll talk about here. Excuse me. So basically, this camp was just enormous, right? It was approximately 50 German and Austrian personnel served at the site. 50.
Wow. Gigantic.
33 soccer fields, right? The entire grounds of the camp. Okay. So the thing was tiny. Basically,
it was the size of. I was thinking that they had that many soccer fields. I was like, wow,
that's hilarious.
That's gigantic.
Could be. It'd be a little bigger camp. They only had 4 here. No, just kidding. Okay, so if you go to Wikipedia, right, I'm just going to tell you what it says about the gas chambers. Okay. The first gas chambers at Sobibor were built following the model of those at Belzec. That was where 434,000 died, according to USHMM, but without any furnaces. To provide the carbon monoxide gas, SS Scharführer Erich Fuchs, I don't know, acquired a heavy gasoline engine in Lemberg, disassembled from an armored vehicle or a tractor. Fuchs installed the engine on a cement base at Sobibor in the presence of SS officers Fluss, Bauer, Stengel, and Barbel, and connected the engine exhaust manifold to pipes leading to the gas chamber. In mid-April 1942, the Nazis conducted experimental gassings in the nearly finished camp. Bet you they didn't work well. Christian Wirth, the commander of Belzec and inspector of Operation Reinhardt, visited Sobibor to witness one of these gassings, which murdered 30 to 40 Jewish women brought from the labor camp at Krakow. So we talked about this yesterday.
Sounds like the scene from the movie, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Carbon monoxide, we talked about this yesterday. And if you watch our videos, I don't want to do it 2 days in a row for you. Yeah. It'll be like watching Tim Cassidy tells the same story over and over again. If you really want to hear the story about how carbon monoxide doesn't work unless it's concentrated, go watch our part 4. I'll link in the description below about Mydonic. Because if you concentrate it and you have canisters of it and you can get it in there really fast, you could do something. But just the diesel exhaust is not going to do it. And if you did want to do that, you would have to have tons of canisters in it. Okay. You'd have to, like the train has this many carts of prisoners and this many carts of canisters. Oh, okay. Not as many, but you would still have to, and then there would be records and stuff. And they can't say it's Zyklon B killing them. They can't make that story because we have all the manifests of all the Zyklon B shipments, and they were all exactly per capita, whether it was a death or a non-death camp, which means that nobody was deathed in any camp by Zyklon B. So you can't just keep adding that. They already made that mistake with Auschwitz and got burned on it when they did the testing. You can view our video on that. Anyways, now we'll talk about the escape. In early 1943, the Jewish prisoners became concerned as they sensed that killing operations in Sobibor were winding down. They also learned that Belzec had been dismantled and all surviving prisoners liquidated. In response, the prisoners organized a resistance group in the late spring of 1943. In late September, this group was augmented in number and military training skills by the arrival of some Jewish Red Army POWs from the Minsk ghetto. All this stuff happens in the movie. The prisoners planned an uprising following the murder of key German camp officials. On October 14, 1943, with approximately 600 prisoners left in the camp, those who knew the plan initiated the revolt. The prisoners killed 11 German personnel and a few Trauniki-trained guards outside of the 11. Around 300 prisoners succeeded in breaking out of the killing center that day, the killing center. Approximately 100 were caught in the dragnet that followed the uprising. Some 50 prisoners escaped Sobibor and survived the war. So basically they did this in a movie too, where they had just closed down another camp. So I guess it was Belzec. And I forget, I thought it was Chelmo from the movie. And then they realized that everybody had died there. They got word of that from the people that were sent from that camp who lived. No, I'm just joking about that. Because how would you get word of that?
I was wondering. Yeah.
It would be, you know. And basically, so they shut down Sobibor. And they tractored it over, like with tractors. And they planted a pine forest.
Oh.
So when you go back to yesterday's video and you say Yad Vashem, and they're like, we have no evidence whatsoever of any of these, despite all the crimes that happened, and that we have no evidence of any of the crimes.
Convenient.
I mean, you could make a story about anything.
Right, yeah, whatever.
Remember that factory that closed down and they just demolished it?
Right.
Do you know that in that factory they did methamphetamine?
Sure.
Millions of pounds of methamphetamine over the course of decades. Like you could do whatever you want. You don't have no evidence whatsoever. Anyways, and so that's the story of Sobibor. No evidence. They don't have a killing method. They don't even have a, see, if you do Zyklon B, you could be like, Zyklon B would kill people. It's an insecticide. It would kill people. Mm-hmm. Now we know they didn't do it because they didn't, we have the manifest. They didn't send enough Zyklon B to do it. It would have, what if they hit them with paddles until they died? Like you don't even have a method. That doesn't kill people.
Yeah.
It would make more sense to say they lined them up and shot them all. And then what about cremation facilities? How is this happening?
Right.
None of it makes sense whatsoever. In this tiny little camp.
It's very, very consistent with everything else that we've talked about, though. Like, it's just like everything else. None of it makes sense.
It's just a satire.
Right. Well, yeah, the movie's definitely.
Okay, and here's a thought I have on this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. We did a whole episode on The Big Lie, correct?
I feel like we did.
Yeah, and I got to find it. It's got to be like almost a year old now.
Yeah.
And I did Mein Kampf, and I showed the exact passage.
Oh,
I
yeah,
read it.
You did.
So I'm going to link that. It's a way older video, different set, like terrible microphones at the beginning. So, but it reminds me of that because Hitler said in Mein Kampf that the big lie is a lie so big and so ridiculous that people wouldn't even think you're lying. You couldn't be lying about something so outrageous. And when I think about the Holocaust, I think about, what if the Holocaust didn't happen? But look, nobody's that evil enough to make a lie this big. Well, that's you projecting the goodness of your people upon a terrible, wicked people. I'm just quote the Bible.
Yeah.
Just a stubborn, wicked people. And no, they don't have your same goodness. So when they're doing Hitler's big lie, because Hitler never claimed to do the big lie, he claimed that the Jews were doing the big lie. And now you have evidence of the Jews doing the big lie.
Right.
And you say it couldn't possibly be. Don't project. Right. Don't project your own goodness onto other people who aren't good.
That's the hardest part with learning all this stuff is there are different kinds of people out there.
Right. And if you don't believe me, go ask somebody who's a religious Jew. Just say, hey, are you and I of equal value? Mm-hmm. Just ask them that.
Yeah.
Because you're lower to him than the distance by the Talmud, lower than him to the distance that between us and dogs.
We're closer to dogs than we are to a Jew.
Yeah. So dogs, us, and then the Jews think they're up here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you think, well, how dare you say Jews have a different morality? And I'm talking about religious Jews here. I'm not talking about a Hebrew who's Christian. I'm not talking about an Israeli who's an Arab. Religious Jew. I don't care if you're Ethiopian.
Yeah.
You know. Anyways, that's what I got. So I just want to relate that big lie.
Totally.
Because this is what I think. People are like, it's got to be true, though, right?
Right.
Not even a killing method. Not even a claim of a killing method.
Yeah.
I've never seen, there's nothing like this in all of history that you'll find.
Right.
That there's a story so wild and nonsensical that the entire thing's satire, and the majority of people on the planet believe it.
Right. You'd never question it growing up. It's almost like a religious thing that's just taught to you, and you just like, yes, and you never look at it.
Yeah. Pretty well.
Yeah. Hopefully you've enjoyed this week of looking more into the Holocaust. I'm sure there's going to be more Holocaust weeks to come. Let us know your thoughts on this camp or any other camps, any other facts, anything that you think we've missed. And
the next time they do a great blockbuster movie,
yes,
it's going to be called Chelmore Belzec. It's going to be wild. I'm watching that, so I can just let you know.
All right. Hopefully we'll catch you next time.